All right, ready to dive into something a little unexpected.
Sounds intriguing. What are we exploring today?
V-belt building. We're going to help you prep for an interview for this hands-on job.
V-belts, huh? Most folks don't think about them much, but those things are running machinery everywhere. Cars, factories, you name it.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher hooked us up with a ton of resources to guide us. Career guides, interview guides. They even gave us a sneak peek at their AI platform. Pretty cool stuff. But before we get ahead of ourselves, what is a V-belt builder really?
It's way more intricate than you might think. We're not just talking slapping some rubber together here.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So they work with these massive rolls of special rubber. It's called calendared rubber. Basically, it's been smoothed and compressed to have just the right properties.
Calendared rubber, got it. So what do they actually do with it?
All right, picture this. You're measuring and cutting this rubber with crazy precision. Got to use this special cement to bond the sides.
Sounds like it takes some serious skill. And maybe a steady hand.
Oh, for sure. Steady hands are a must. Then they use this specialized drum, a big one, to compress the whole belt, making sure that bond is solid and the shape is perfect. And the final touch, cutting the whole thing to the exact width with a super sharp knife.
So there's a real element of craftsmanship here. It's not just about the machines, it's about the skill of the person building it.
Exactly. That's what you got to showcase in a good interview. And speaking of interviews, RoleCatcher's got you covered. Over 3,000 career guides, 13,000 skill guides,
Whoa, that's a lot of guides.
0.1 interview guides, and hold on to your hat, 120,000 interview questions, all in their platform.
It's like a career encyclopedia. And they gave us 4 sample interview questions to really break down today. The first one seems simple enough. What inspired you to become a V-belt builder?
Right. Seems straightforward.
But something tells me there's more to it than just telling your life story.
You're catching on. The interviewer is looking for genuine excitement about this specific field. Are you passionate about the process, the materials, the impact these belts have? That's what they want to hear.
So how do you answer that without just saying, I like working with my hands?
You got to dig deeper. What truly appeals to you about this work? Maybe you've always loved taking things apart and figuring out how they tick.
Like a little tinkerer.
Exactly. Or maybe it's the precision and attention to detail that really gets you going.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what are some things to avoid saying? I could see people falling into the trap of giving generic answers.
Oh, absolutely. You want to steer clear of those vague responses like, I'm a hard worker or I'm good at following instructions.
Right, those are important, but
They don't show any real spark for V-belt building specifically.
got it. So what would be a good example of the kind of details to include?
Let's say you said something like, I've always been fascinated by how machines work, and I love the idea of building something that's essential to so many different industries.
Okay, I like that.
The combination of hands-on skill and technical precision in V-belt building is what really excites me. Boom.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
It shows a real connection to the work. Okay, question number 2. Describe your experience with V-belt building machinery. Now we're getting a bit more technical.
Definitely. Here, the interviewer is trying to gauge your comfort level with the equipment and processes involved in actually building the belts. Do you know your stuff?
So how do you answer this without just listing off every machine you've ever seen?
Be specific and relevant. Talk about machines you've used that are directly related to V-belt building.
Like,
Cutting tools, bonding equipment, that compression drum we talked about. Those are the stars of the show. And don't just name drop them. Describe how you've actually used them, what you're good at.
makes sense. Any common pitfalls to avoid here?
Don't exaggerate your experience. Honesty is key.
Right, got to keep it real.
Also, avoid using too much technical jargon. Keep it clear and concise so anyone can understand.
Good advice. So let's say I had experience using those specialized scissors for cutting rubber. How would I work that into my answer?
You could say something like, I'm skilled at using precision scissors to cut calendared rubber to the exact length, making sure those edges are clean and straight for a strong bond.
Perfect. It shows you know how to handle the tools. Now, before we move on to the next question, there's something from the RoleCatcher Career Guide that I wanted to touch on.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It emphasized the importance of quality control in V-belt building.
Oh, that's huge. You got to remember those belts are going into machines that need to run smoothly and reliably. No room for errors.
Which brings us perfectly to question number 3. How do you ensure the quality of the V-belts you produce? Clearly, they're looking for someone who's detail-oriented and takes pride in their work.
You got it. This is your chance to show off your understanding of quality control and your commitment to doing top-notch work.
So how do you make your answer stand out?
Don't just say you're detail-oriented. Give real examples of how you've kept up quality in the past. Maybe you have a system for double-checking measurements or a specific way you inspect the finished product. Show them you walk the walk.
Okay, so give concrete examples. What are some common mistakes to avoid with this one? It seems easy to fall back on generalities.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Stay away from vague statements like, I always make sure things are done right, or I pay attention to detail.
Because...
Those are just words. Anyone can say them. Back it up with actions.
Got it. Actions speak louder than words. So let's say I had experience inspecting belts for flaws. How would I incorporate that?
Perfect example. You could say, in my previous role, I was responsible for inspecting each belt before it went to the next step. I would carefully check for inconsistencies in the width, any uneven edges, or any signs of bad bonding. If I found a defect, I would flag it immediately and follow the procedures for fixing it.
That's a great example. It shows you understand quality control procedures, and you take a proactive approach to maintaining those standards. Now, before we dive into the fourth question, there was another point in the RoleCatcher guide that caught my eye.
What's that?
They mentioned potential career advancement for V-belt builders. I bet our listeners would love to hear about that.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a dead-end job. A skilled V-belt builder can definitely move up. They might move into a supervisory role, leading a team of builders, or even specialize in a particular type of V-belt, become a real expert in their niche.
So there's real potential for growth. Okay, ready for question number 4.
Hit me.
This one's about organization and prioritization. How do you prioritize your work when faced with multiple tasks?
The multitasking question. A V-belt builder has to be organized, especially in a fast-paced production environment. The interviewer needs to know you can handle the pressure and manage your time well.
So how do you answer this effectively? I'm guessing it's not enough to just say, I make a to-do list?
Nope, you got to do better than that. You need to explain how you actually figure out which tasks are the most urgent and important.
Give them a glimpse into your thought process.
Right. Do you have a specific system you use for prioritizing? Do you think about deadlines, production flow, potential bottlenecks? These are the things that impress an interviewer.
So what kind of concrete examples would work well here?
You could say something like, when I have a bunch of tasks, I first look at their deadlines and how they'll impact the whole production process.
So you're thinking big picture.
Exactly. Then I make a prioritized list and tackle the most urgent and critical tasks first. For example, if a machine breaks down, that jumps to the top of the list because it affects everyone's ability to work.
Makes perfect sense. You got to be able to think on your feet and adapt. Speaking of thinking ahead, I wanted to highlight how RoleCatcher's AI can give you a real advantage in your interview prep.
Their AI features are pretty impressive. Imagine having your practice answers analyzed and getting feedback that's tailored specifically to the V-belt builder role. It's like having a personal coach.
Wait, it actually analyzes your answers. How does that even work?
It can tell you if your answers are too vague or if you need to give more specific examples. It can even suggest ways to make your answers match the job description better.
Pretty slick, huh? That's amazing. So it's like having a personal interview coach right there in your pocket.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just text. It lets you practice with video, too, so you can see how you come across non-verbally and get feedback on your delivery. It's next-level stuff.
Wow, that sounds like a game changer for anyone prepping for a job interview, especially in a field as hands-on as V-belt building.
It really takes the guesswork out of prep and helps you zero in on the areas where you can really shine. But for now, let's get back to those interview questions. We've covered the first 4, but we all know interviewers love to ask follow-up questions to really get to know you.
That's where things get really interesting. So in part 2 of this deep dive, we'll explore some potential follow-up questions and how to handle them like a pro. Stay tuned.
Can't wait. You know, it's funny how a simple question can be so tricky.
Right. It's like one of those optical illusions. You see one thing at first, but then bam, there's a whole other layer.
That's a great way to put it. And that's what we're going to uncover with these follow-up questions. They really make you think.
Exactly. So let's revisit that first question. What inspired you to become a V-belt builder? We talked about highlighting your passion for mechanics.
But a good interviewer might dig a little deeper, right? They might ask, what specifically about mechanics do you find most engaging?
Ooh, that's a good one. It forces you to go beyond the surface level.
Exactly. You got to be ready with a response that shows you've really thought about it. What truly captivates you about mechanics? Is it the problem-solving aspect? The satisfaction of seeing all the different parts working together like a well-oiled machine?
So how do you tie that back to V-belt building?
You could say something like, I'm really drawn to the challenge of creating a perfectly balanced and aligned belt. It's like solving a complex puzzle, making sure every component contributes to optimal performance.
That's a great way to show your passion while also demonstrating a deeper understanding of the job. Okay, let's move on to potential follow-up questions for the second question about experience with V-belt building machinery. Remember we talked about being specific and detailing the types of machines you've used?
Right. Now imagine the interviewer hits you with this. Tell me about a time you encountered a problem with a V-belt building machine. How did you approach the situation?
The classic tell me about a time question. It's all about seeing how you handled challenges in real-world scenarios.
Exactly. This is your chance to shine. Give them a specific example, the problem, the steps you took to figure it out, and how you solved it. Even if you haven't personally tackled a major malfunction, you could talk about a time you helped someone else or describe how you would approach a hypothetical situation.
So like I could say, while I haven't single-handedly fixed a major machine breakdown, I've worked with experienced technicians and seen how they solve problems. I'm familiar with the common issues and confident I could apply my knowledge to troubleshoot effectively.
Perfect. It shows you're eager to learn and can put that knowledge into practice. Now let's look at the third question about quality control. We talked about going beyond generic statements and giving specific examples of how you've ensured quality in the past.
Right, so let's say you've described your general approach to quality control. The interviewer might follow up with, can you give me a specific example of a time you identified a quality issue that others had overlooked? What did you do about it?
Now, this is where you can really show off that attention to detail and your commitment to excellence. Think back to a time when you spotted a flaw that others missed.
Yeah.
What did you notice? How did you know it was a problem? And what steps did you take?
It really emphasizes the importance of being proactive and observant. It's not just about doing the bare minimum, it's about going the extra mile for quality.
Absolutely. And it's also a chance to highlight your communication skills. Did you bring it up with your supervisor? Did you work with your team to find a solution? Those details show that you're a valuable team player.
Now, before we get to the fourth question, I want to bring in another insight from the RoleCatcher Career Guide. It's something we haven't talked about yet, the physical demands of the job.
Oh, right. V-belt building can be pretty physical. You're on your feet a lot, might have to lift heavy things, and the work can get repetitive.
So how might that come up in the interview?
The interviewer might ask something like, are you comfortable working in a physically demanding environment? How do you stay motivated when doing repetitive tasks?
It makes sense. They want to make sure you understand what the job entails and that you're up for the challenge both physically and mentally.
Exactly. And honesty is crucial here. Don't downplay the physical stuff if you're not truly comfortable with it.
So how do you answer a question like that?
Acknowledge the demands, but also highlight your ability to handle them. You could say something like, I know the job requires physical stamina, and I'm committed to staying in shape to meet those requirements. To stay motivated during repetitive tasks, I focus on the bigger picture, knowing these belts are essential for so many machines and industries.
I like that. It shows you're realistic about the challenges, but also understand the importance of the work. Now let's tackle potential follow-ups for the fourth question about prioritizing tasks. Remember we talked about explaining your process for assessing urgency and importance.
Right. Now picture the interviewer adding this. Tell me about a time your priorities shifted unexpectedly. How did you adapt?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's all about flexibility and thinking on your feet.
You got it. They want to see if you can handle those curveballs that pop up in any job, especially in production.
So how do you answer this type of question?
Think of a specific time when you had to reprioritize because of something unexpected. Explain the situation, how you reassessed your priorities, and the actions you took to make sure everything got done.
Okay, let's say I'm in the middle of cutting a big batch of belts and suddenly one of the machines breaks down. How would I explain my response to that?
You could say, I was working on a rush order when one of the cutting machines went down. I stopped what I was doing and called maintenance right away. While waiting for them to fix it, I focused on tasks I could do without the machine. Once it was up and running again, I caught up on the delayed work and made sure we met the deadline.
That shows you can adapt to changes and still be productive. Now, before we wrap up this section on follow-up questions, I have to say I'm super impressed with how RoleCatcher's AI can help people prepare for these tricky interview scenarios.
I agree. It's like having a virtual coach that analyzes your answers your body language, even your tone of voice, and gives you personalized feedback. It's amazing.
It takes the guesswork out of preparation and helps you focus on the areas where you can really excel. And the best part is RoleCatcher's AI can even help you tailor your answers to the specific job you're applying for, like this V-belt builder position.
Exactly. It analyzes the job description, picks out keywords and skills, and then helps you craft responses that hit all the right notes.
It's like having a secret weapon in your job-seeking arsenal.
Hmm.
Okay, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground in this part, delving into those follow-up questions and seeing how RoleCatcher can level up your interview game. But there's still more to come.
In the final part of our deep dive, we'll step back and look at the bigger picture things like career paths, industry trends, and how a job like V-belt building can lead to a rewarding career.
Don't miss it. Welcome back. We've been exploring the world of V-belt building, getting you prepped for that interview, and really digging into the questions they might ask.
But acing the interview is just the start, right? You want to be sure this is a career that's a good fit for you in the long run.
Exactly. And the RoleCatcher Guide gave us some great insights into the day-to-day of being a V-belt builder. Earlier, we touched on the work environment, but let's paint a more detailed picture. What's it actually like in there?
So you'll be in a manufacturing facility, most likely on a production line, surrounded by all the machinery and tools, working as part of a team.
We talked about the noise and dust. What other working conditions should someone consider? What are we walking into?
Safety is a top priority, of course, in any manufacturing setting. So expect to be wearing personal protective equipment, safety glasses, gloves, maybe even steel-toed boots, depending on the specific facility.
So it's not just about being comfortable with the sounds and the feel of the place. It's about being serious about safety procedures. What about the people side of things? The guide mentioned teamwork. What's that like on a daily basis?
Yeah, V-belt building often involves a lot of collaboration, especially on those big production runs. You might be helping each other out with tasks, sharing knowledge, or troubleshooting problems as a group.
So good communication is key. It's not just about individual skill, it's about working together effectively.
Absolutely. And that teamwork can create a real sense of camaraderie, which can be a big plus for a lot of people.
Now, we mentioned earlier that there are opportunities to move up in this field. What are some of those paths for a V-belt builder who wants to advance their career?
Well, there are a few different routes. With enough skill, a builder could get promoted to a supervisory role. They'd be leading a team, making sure their part of the production runs smoothly.
So there's a leadership path for those who are interested. What are some other options for someone looking to grow?
Another path is specialization. You could become the go-to expert for a specific type of V-belt or maybe a certain building process.
I see, becoming a real specialist. Are there any related fields that a V-belt builder could move into? Maybe even getting off the production floor altogether?
Definitely. Their knowledge of rubber, manufacturing processes, and quality control could open doors to roles in product development or quality assurance, maybe even technical sales or support for those companies that make the machinery.
Wow, so it's not just a straight line. There are a lot of different branches. Lots of possibilities.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about any career path. You never know for sure where your skills and interests might lead you. And that's where a tool like RoleCatcher can be so helpful. It helps you explore those possibilities and make smart decisions.
Speaking of RoleCatcher, I want to circle back to their AI platform one last time. It's been a big part of our conversation today. It really can make a difference for anyone who's figuring out their career, whether they're just starting out or looking to make a change.
It's incredible how technology can personalize that whole career journey, offering tailored guidance every step of the way.
From building a great resume, to practicing for tough interview questions, to exploring different career paths, RoleCatcher seems to have it all. And those AI features take it to the next level.
It's like having a personal career coach right in your pocket whenever you need it. Plus, with their huge database of career guides, skill guides, and interview questions, you'll always have the information you need.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, listeners, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of V-belt building. We hope you've learned a lot about this hands-on, detail-oriented, and surprisingly versatile career.
Whether you're interested in the craftsmanship, the problem-solving, or the potential for growth, a career as a V-belt builder offers a unique blend of challenges and rewards.
And if this has sparked your curiosity, check out RoleCatcher's full V-belt builder guide. It's packed with even more insights to help you decide if this is the right path for you. Until next time, happy diving.